continuing on the theme of transformation, digital transformation within organizations, our next guest has worked in the healthcare industry as part of an organization, Change Healthcare. He's been responsible for upgrading the payment systems within the Change Healthcare organization, and that allows consumers, insurance companies, healthcare providers to be able to transact a lot easier in doing business with Change Healthcare. So please join me in welcoming Gopi Devalcheruvu to the stage, please.
Thanks, Roger.
Gopi, welcome to FutureStack today, and thanks for taking the time for talking to us for a little while.
Thank you, Roger. Thanks for the opportunity. It's been fun.
Excellent. I was looking at your background. You've had a remarkable track record of helping transform organizations in your history. I think you worked at Bank of the West, you worked at Charles Schwab, you now Change Healthcare. What is it about regulated industries that you like to take on a challenge? I admire you.
Yeah.
But in all seriousness, those industries are highly regulated, which presents some amazing challenges when you have the velocity imperative, when you want to accelerate to the future, when you want to remove toil. So talk a little bit about some of the challenges you've experienced through your career and how that perhaps translates into Change Healthcare as well, in terms of getting that change to happen.
Sure. I think one thing we don't have the luxury in a lot of regulated industries is really about starting with a clean slate. Again, so we have a legacy of more regulatory environment as well as things which are built over many, many years. So we have tremendous complexity in these legacy systems, and we also have to deal with, unfortunately, a lot of legacy thinking as well. So when you look at these problems and what are we trying to do for our customers, we need to think about broadly around the complexity. We have existing solutions. We have huge number of customers, a very broad set of customers. We need to service them, and we need to reinvent ourselves. So it's one of the most complex problems. If you think about it, it's like keeping the plane moving while you're trying to change the engine and retrofit all the things you're doing. So how do you do this, right? Mm-hmm. So I think that's one of the challenges I see time and again in all these organizations. And the question we ask ourselves is, how do we achieve that escape velocity? We are in this orbit of trying to kind of move past this, but it's very difficult, and that's where tools like Relic and the new technologies, whether it's cloud, and embracing it within the context of the regulatory constraints, security, make it interesting.
That's a significant challenge, I would imagine. So let's move a little bit to the relationship with New Relic, and more specifically around what you do at Change Healthcare. You're focused on the payment systems side of things, which I would imagine involve multiple different parties and a fairly significant distributed architecture. So talk to us a little bit about the transformation you've driven there, what you've achieved, and how you've used New Relic in that journey.
Sure. I think before I would touch on what Lou mentioned in his opening remarks today, the digitization in the globe, right? He mentioned about 53 trillion. If you take a step back and look at the US healthcare system, it is 1/6 of our gross domestic product, GDP. And the spend last year was about $3.3 trillion and growing. If you think about the space, how big is that, and what a huge challenge it is as the baby boomers retire, it's going to be more and more of a challenge. We at Change Healthcare provide a lot of technology and solutions, both for all parts of the US healthcare system. And we believe there is an addressable market about $300 billion by removing a lot of the administrative and the inefficiencies and the waste within the system. So I think that's a huge opportunity, and that's where we are really focused on. And payments is one key part of it. If you imagine $3.3 trillion being spent on healthcare, and so we have a payments network. So I manage all the engineering, the payments network focused on healthcare. So within that, we move billions of dollars between the insurance companies, we call them payers, the healthcare providers, and consumers like you and me, right? So our goal is to really provide two things. One, a seamless experience, and a very efficient experience. Given how much waste and inefficiencies are there, we need to drive that. So how do we do that, right? So one, the most important thing we need to do is really measure that. And that's where New Relic comes in. So when I joined Change Healthcare 2 years ago, I inherited pretty much a very legacy healthcare network platform. And one of the first things we did was we had a lot of availability issues and challenges. So we put New Relic in to really understand where the problems were, because it was really like finding a needle in a haystack, right? So to, again, going to the other theme, we heard a lot about it today, was removing the toil. So it was very, very difficult for our engineers to do anything beyond our legacy platform and innovate, because they were so buried in what they had to do, right? So within 6 months, we were able to really focus on the key pain points and remove the toil and achieve, in the last year, we achieved 100% uptime on our legacy healthcare platform. And that enabled us to even free up our key engineers and product folks to build a completely new healthcare platform on AWS with on the cloud with containers, microservices, and all our payments are exposed now as APIs. So within the organization and outside the organization, anyone can use these APIs and make payments without all the friction which existed before. And all of this was possible because we were able to strategically apply the technology and the innovation like what New Relic is doing to solve this business problem, right? How do we move the wheels on the train as the train is moving and build a completely new payments network? So,
excellent. It must have been an exciting journey.
It is, and every day we are. I think a forum like this is really helpful for us to know more about distributed tracing and all the technologies we could apply.
Excellent. I know in the break we were talking a little bit about Eric's conversation with Lou and USA Today Network and the work they've done to sort of link the business data back into some of the more technical KPIs that we can surface out of New Relic. And lo and behold, you whipped out your mobile phone and you showed me a dashboard, which I thought was amazing. Maybe talk a little bit about some of those things that you're capturing in the dashboards, how you use that, how you keep teams aligned through that.
Yeah, I think one of the really wonderful things is our CEO, Neil Crescenzo. He's really a visionary. He really, few years before I joined, we started working with AWS to really create the cloud foundation. We really worked with them to create business associate agreements to handle all the HIPAA compliance, PHI, security, all of those things. So we were able to really make a leap. A cloud was not a conversation, it was a given that we would do it. So when the payments team, when I joined the payments team, there was no resistance in that sense of, is it secure, is our data, all the questions we hear in regulated environments, that was there. So one of the nice things is Neil, all the way from Neil to every individual contributor in the organization, we have what's called OKRs, which stand for objectives and key results. So there is complete alignment from the CEO top to the individual, down to the individual contributor, what are our priorities? Mm-hmm. So we use that really to focus, and we have constant dialogue. Are these the right priorities? Should we, what is each team trying to achieve? And we also, in a large organization, you can imagine there will be silos, right? So we use the OKRs to also overcome those silos to say, this is something which is really important for us as an organization. Mm-hmm. So let's rally behind it and let's break through those silos. So I think, and in that context, within my own payments area, we built actually a dashboard using New Relic Insights, which said, what are the key KPIs we are after, right? One is the uptime. Mm-hmm. So we want to achieve 100% uptime. In a payments network, that's very, very mission critical. Mm-hmm. So when you go to our dashboard, you will see in real time, what is the uptime, the last 30 minutes up to the minute, and we are able to look at all the payment transactions actually flowing in real time up to the very second compared to last week. Mm-hmm. So we are able to see all the payments which are happening compared to last week, and we have alerting to show, through different channels, what kind of payments are coming through. So everyone is empowered in the team to say, how do I achieve this objective? So it has broken a lot of silos and helped collaboration within the teams and across teams too, to say, if this is really important, we have visibility, let's figure out how to resolve issues or move forward.
I love that. I mean, the sense of tying that all back to your OKRs,
Yeah.
and I know technology is so important to change healthcare, and the work that Neil's done to drive that throughout the organization, but it's fantastic to see you surfacing that through our technology. Yeah. So thank you for that. Maybe in closing, just very quickly, where next for change?
So again, going back to my earlier point about the $300 billion opportunity we have, I think there are three key areas we're focused on. One is to reduce fraud, waste, and abuse in the system. The other one is really about removing redundant or no value work, which is in the system, inefficiencies. And the third is, within the healthcare ecosystem, there are a lot of different partners, whether it's the insurance companies, the healthcare providers, the labs, the hospitals, and the patients, right? They all need to collaborate. So what we're looking at is using technologies like cloud to drive down efficiencies in the cost of delivery of these services. Also using AI for a lot of the fraud detection and really streamlining processes where we can have really amazing efficiencies driven by that. And also looking at blockchain for collaboration using distributed ledger technologies. So I think these are all things which we start small and we focus on what are the right problem to solve and keep innovating and also managing risk. And I think because we are in a legacy environment, we cannot, it's all mission critical, we cannot have downtimes. So we really come through with very clear contingency plans which help us manage the risk of innovating, trying something new, and even experimentation. So whenever we change any experience, we don't have to make it a global change. We do it for a very small segment of the customers who are making payments so that we learn from them and then push those learnings to a broader audience. So it's a journey. So I think it's going to take some time, but clearly we are on it.
It's a journey we've loved taking with you. Thank you so much for your time. I feel like we could talk for another 15, 20 minutes, but unfortunately we're up against time constraints, and I know you're going to be around here for some time this afternoon, so maybe people can find you and carry on the conversation. But Gopi, thanks very much for your time. Really
Thank you, Roger.